Okay, I'm back again. Um, it's still Thursday. I'm still hanging out at home alone. I don't mind it so much. Um, Husband will be home in a little while. He's at work. Um, I feel like I just need to kind of talk things through sometimes. So I was just watching CNN. Sometimes I get a little bit addicted to CNN, and I know there are people out there who feel a certain way about CNN versus other news channels or news in general. But there's a hospital right on the border of California and Mexico, um, in a rural area called Mexicali, Mexico. So I think what younger people need to remember is that back in this, even in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when California was starting to grow and thrive and become populated, it was it was such like a touristy thing to do to take the weekend and drive down to Mexicali or drive down to the border and cross the border and go have a fun weekend and listen to Mexican music and take in more of the culture and have Mexican food and then um, listen to Mexican music and go down to the beaches and things like that and go to Cabo. And so that's how all of these things these towns became part of our culture, and the drinks became part of our culture. The food became part of our culture because there was such a there was a free flowing borders. There were more open borders. So, and actually both sides of the country, Mexico and the US, were, a little more friendly to each other. And, Mexico enjoyed having Americans come visit. And quite frankly, Americans liked having Mexican people come visit. The farmers were really thriving, and farmers would go into Mexico to find workers for the day. So, they didn't have hired hands or necessarily or even all the time, but they knew that the hardest workers that they could have were people from Mexico, Mexican people. I mean, we're just a culture of very hard, um, working people. Like, Lynn Emanuel says in his um, his his musical of Andrew Alexander Hamilton, immigrants. I mean, we get the job done. Um, Now, I personally am not an immigrant. I was born and raised here. I've had people ask me if I'm first generation. I'm not first generation. I'm what I call Tejana. I'm what I call pura Tejana. To me, that means that as far back as I can trace, as we can trace, or as we have traced, my grandmother, great grandmothers have all been born here, back to when even this part of the country was part of Mexico or an independent republic of Texas. So, um, again, not everybody came here. We are the indigenous people of this country. We were here first. Our people were here. This is our country land. So when people say, go back to Mexico, well, we're here because all of Texas and California and Arizona, that was all Mexico. So you can't really tell us, go back to Mexico because um, that's where you're standing. So and that's why the culture is so embedded in the U.S. because we've been here, and most of the time, whether you're born in Mexico or whether you're born in the United States, if you're of Mexican heritage, it's still offensive when people say things like, "Well, go back to Mexico," or this is America. Well, if you look at a map, Mexico is America too. It's part of North America. You don't get to Central America until you get south of Mexico, and then the lower after that is South America. So those are two Americas, North America, South America. Um, so I think people of Mexico and Mexican American and Tejanas and Californias and Chicanas were probably more American than some Americans. So um, and it's just kind of hurtful to hear that somebody says we'll go back to Mexico. Well, you know what? Um, we're all from here, so um, and even I didn't learn that growing up until later. I can remember thinking, growing up, the thinking was that if we were born here, that maybe we were better off or better than the people than our brothers and sisters who had to come here, but we're not. I mean, we're all of the same culture, and now we're all American, and the two cultures are so embedded, especially here in the South, that I mean, why do you want to delineate so much? So, um, anyways, it's just my thought. But um, so there's a hospital in Mexicali that, like, there's a hospital, and then there's a tent that they've made into a hospital, and it has 11 ICU beds or 12 ICU beds, and 11 of those are vented coronavirus patients. And the numbers are going back up. And I know there are people who don't believe that. I even know nurses who don't believe that this is all true, that this is all just. I've heard. I heard a nurse the other day say the numbers are rigged, that they're just trying to scare people, yada yada. Just different stories and different takes that they're not seeing, because I know some nurses had to get laid off because they were preparing for the COVID, and then the COVID never came. There's one of those dog commercials, the AAPC commercials. Oh, they make me cry. Um, so, everybody is gonna believe what they're gonna believe, and you can't try to convince them. Otherwise, you can just try to talk and have a normal conversation. But ASPCA. Um, um, but oh, there were 12 ICU beds, and 11 of those 12 ICU beds had ventilated COVID patients. And so the mayor of that town, the hospital administrator or the hospital executives was reaching out to the senators of California, Feinstein, and don't remember the other. Is it Jill Feinstein? Is that her name? Feinstein and somebody else in that area to request emergency help. So I do know a nurse that has gone down to San Antonio, from here to Dallas to San Antonio. So it looks like South Texas is asking for help, and they're asking for 28 ICU nurses, 20 ventilators, and they're just asking for more stuff. And so we're going in the direction of on being low on PPE again. So that's kind of a sad thing. But yeah, I mean, just remember that brown people, most of everything that you do, like if you're in a hotel, most of it was cleaned by a Latina. If you ate a salad, the salad that you ate and the fruit that you're eating in your salad was picked by someone of Mexican heritage. You know, even if you live in a very nice part of town, which we kind of do, we're in University Park. We just live in an apartment, but I mean, still, I mean, everything that's has to do with cooking and cleaning and shopping and groceries and gas station and auto repair, all of that is done most of the time by Mexican people or people of Mexican heritage, be them Mexican nationals or them be um, Mexican American. So the word Mexican kind of has turned into a derogatory word, and I hope to kind of maybe enlighten one or even two people to say that the Mexican is not a dirty word, because it's a country, and it's a functioning country. And if we think about one of Earth's natural resources, or at least two, um, oil and um, medical marijuana. There is it could be very rich if marijuana were legalized. Think about that. If marijuana were legalized, then Mexico might be one of the richest countries in the world because it'd be the gateway between Central America and the United States. That's another reason not to make it legal, right? Because America wouldn't want Mexico to be richer than America, right? When really we could all be rich if it were just legalized, right? Um, so think about that. Anyways, I hope my friend who's down in San Antonio is safe, and if they get deployed to the hospitals to work in the ICU. So everyone stay safe. If you go out, please put a mask on. It's not a political statement. If you put a mask on, think about the nurses and doctors in the emergency rooms. Don't do it for your president. Don't do it for your soon to be president. Don't do it for because you're a Republican or a Democrat. Just do it because you know a nurse or a nurse took care of you or a doctor took care of you in the emergency room and you just want to keep the workload low on them. So just put on a mask. That's it. Wash your hands a lot and just try to stay home. There's really nowhere to go anyways. All right, everyone have a good day. Bye.